Hi guys, it's Reagan and today I'm going to be filming a video all about unpopular opinions. This is a book tag and I'm not sure if I was tagged by anyone, but I will leave the original creators video down below for you. But let's go ahead and get started. Question 1 is name a popular book series that you did not like. For this, I'm going to go with the Ruby Red trilogy by Kirsten Gier. I used to own this, but I got rid of it because I didn't like it. This is a young adult historical fiction time travel book that honestly wasn't very good. I enjoyed the first one, but the story itself ended up going downhill for me. I found the main character to be a little insufferable, and I thought her priorities were just all sorts of messed up. I just didn't understand her, and therefore I wasn't a big fan of it. Question 2 is name a popular book series that everybody else seems to hate, but you love. This is a bit of a tricky one for me, but for this I ended up going with the Pathfinder trilogy by Orson Scott Card. This is a young adult science fiction trilogy that I really enjoyed. I've read the first two, I haven't completed it yet, but I've loved this series from book 1, but I find when people read this book they either like it a lot, like you're like yeah, or they're just kind of like that was kind of boring. Like you kind of fall into two camps with this. I feel like it's a pretty divided book series, and then plus there's also the factor of being Orson Scott Card. Some people just hate him because he's a jerk. But that being said, yeah, I really like this trilogy. I think it's really good. Question 3 is name a love triangle where you didn't like who the person ended up with. For this one, this is a little tricky for me to answer because honestly as a reader I'm really easy to please when it comes to love triangles. Usually I follow along with whatever the author wants us to want, and so I never ever go against canon. I just have something against me. Like that's why I can't really read fan fiction, because I feel like when it's in a book it's written in stone. Like I don't like to ponder outside or elsewhere or think no, this person should have ended up with this person. Now usually it's right on track with the author, so I really don't have an answer for this. The closest one I could probably say is The Hunger Games, because when I read it initially I loved Gale so much more than Peeta, but I don't even think that anymore because as an adult I love Peeta way more than Gale in terms of like fitting for Katniss. I just think Peeta is a better fit for her. So like even still, in the end, I follow canon. Question 4 is a popular book genre that you rarely reach for. And for me, there's 2 of this, and I think it's gonna be young adult contemporary, which I rarely read, maybe 1 or 2 books of that a year during 1 or 2 times a year, or also young adult paranormal or dystopian fiction, which I've probably read 1 book in the it's been a long time since I've read that, but at the same I pick contemporary over the paranormal dystopian because I could be in the mood for that again and then read a whole bunch of it, but I've always only barely read contemporary books, so those 2. Question 5 is a popular or beloved character that you do not like. So I have 2 for this, and they're both from the Harry Potter series. The first one being Sirius Black. Now I used to love Sirius. Sirius was my favorite character out of everyone, but when I reread the 5th book recently, I noticed him to be not that great. He really bothered me because he was kind of a mentor to Harry, his only family, but he was really just trying to make Harry be exactly like his father, and he kind of isolated Harry and made him angry towards his friends, and I don't know, I just didn't like how he talked with Harry and pushed him to do things he really shouldn't have been doing anyway, so I just disliked that. Also, I have some issues with Snape. Snape's kind of creepy. I understand the guy's redeemable, but I don't understand why he acted that way towards Harry. It didn't make sense. You can't hold a grudge against a 12-year-old boy for something his dead father did to you 20 years prior. There's really no excuse for it because you're supposed to be an adult, man. Adults don't do that, or they shouldn't. Question 6 is a popular author that you just can't seem to get into. And this one's really tricky. There are only a few. For this, I'm going to go with David Mitchell, who wrote Cloud Atlas. Now, I've only read 1 David Mitchell book, so I think when I read more David Mitchell, I'll change my mind, but I've read Cloud Atlas this past year, and I honestly wasn't a huge fan. I thought it was good, but I just didn't think it was as great as everyone seems to think it is. But again, I think if I read some other David Mitchell, I feel I'll get into some of his other works more than Cloud Atlas. So, but right now it's David Mitchell. Question 8 is a popular series that you have no interest in reading. For this, I'm going to go with the Divergent trilogy, which you may know I've read the first book. I read it ages ago, but I have not completed it, and I have no interest in ever completing it. And I also have a hard time with the Legend trilogy by Marie Lu. I read the first book like 2 years ago now, and I have no interest in continuing on. Maybe that's I'm a little more interested in Legend than I am with Divergent. Let me know down below if I should continue on with the Legend trilogy. Like, is it worth it? Let me know. Question 9 is, name a book that you feel is worse than its movie adaptation, or which book to movie adaptation is better than its original source material. For this might be a little controversial. Okay, so I have 2 that I'm going to talk about. The first one, I think I'm going to go with Game of Thrones. And now this is a personal preference. I've tried to read Game of Thrones now for like a year and a half. I got halfway through the 3rd book, and honestly, like, while I appreciate the story, like, it's really complex and rich, George R. R. Martin's writing style to me is just not something I like to read. It takes me forever. It's so dense, and it just kind of makes me, all the big things seem to be shrouded and given the same weight as things that to me are insignificant. But the TV show, on the other hand, I really, really, really like, and I've just started finally watching it again because I was on hiatus because I was going to read, but then I decided to give up. And so, like, I don't know, I just enjoy the vehicle of being able to watch everything happen than to read it. That being said, I do plan on continuing the books at a later date because I know the book series and the TV show are going to diverge, and I know there's storylines that aren't present in one, so I will read them. I just think I like the TV show a little bit more. The other one I'm going to talk about is The Hunger Games. Now, this might be a little surprising, and I think it's just because when I first read The Hunger Games, I thought they were really great and I loved them, but I don't think, as much as I loved the story, I really wasn't attached to any of the characters per se, like Katniss, Peeta, and Gale weren't like up there like with my fan favorites. But since the movies have come out, I find that the characters seem a little more like rich to me. Like, I'm so much more attached to them, and I feel like the world is so much more fleshed out in the movies. So it's not that I necessarily think the movies of The Hunger Games are better. I just think they complement each other so well, and I just think the Hunger Game movies are so well done that, like, I don't know. I really like the Hunger Game movies, and the Hunger Game movies have made me like the story of the Hunger Games a lot more than I did. So, I don't know. Alrighty guys, that is the Unpopular Opinions book tag. Let me know down below some unpopular opinions that you have, because let's be honest, sometimes it's fun to hear what people don't like. So anyway, I will see you guys soon with another video soon. Goodbye!